So today's sort of what do you call it? Vacation, philosophical vacation, and we are going through a special text which is called the Meditation Song, or Jorcha in Tibetan, and we've been learning about ways to prepare for meditation. These are steps for preparing for meditation. So there's a book. Somebody hand me yeah. There's a book that we printed, and we didn't print it at a printer, we just printed it at Costco. And it's a translation of a text from the 19th century about how to prepare for meditation. And we're going to be going through this book tonight. If you want a copy, is there still there? Vicky's got them back there. They're expensive. They're $25 because they cost a lot to print. But if you would like a copy just to take for free, we have it. She has it on a flash disk, and you can just copy it onto your computer or your iPad. You're welcome to have it for free. And you can also just watch it on the screen. Okay? But I encourage you to get one, even if it's just on your computer, because you can use it every morning to prepare for your meditation. You can use it. Okay, it's nice to have. Okay, we're on verse 64, which is page 51. And we're going to go through the 7 different preparations that we traditionally do to prepare for meditation. And I'll read the Tibetan for good luck, and then I'll explain it, and then kind of savor it and think about it and go deeper into it, okay? Punso gelek chewe tumbeku taye dore rewa kongwesum malu sheja jishin sipetu shakitso dela chaksalo. Look familiar? We had it like, I don't know. Remember I told you there was a grace that you could do? This is the same verse, okay? So this verse is repeated in this text, okay, because it's so important. And this part is called Chakselwa. Chakselwa in Tibetan means to prostrate. So you see this thing where Buddhists get down on the ground and put their head on the ground, or you see full prostration where they stretch their body out on the ground and they prostrate before a teacher, before the class, or after the class. And I remember when I first went to India, it was like, I forget, 1973. And I grew up a Christian near here. And I was even supposed to go to seminary. I was signed up for seminary. Then I got hijacked. And I think, I don't remember, but in the 10 Commandments, there's something like you can't bow down to, false gods or whatever. But the bow down part was, when I saw these Buddhist people bowing down to the teacher, then I felt very uncomfortable. And I thought, oh, that's why they made the commandment. Now these people are breaking it, And I thought, oh, this is, I'll never do that. And I was purposely stood up straight while they were doing it. And it felt very uncomfortable with it. And then slowly they explained it to me, and now I enjoy doing it. I enjoy making a prostration. There's a part in the Bible. I don't know exactly where it is. It's when Moses sees God, and he sees God as a burning bush, right? And I don't know. Maybe you're the same, but my impression of the whole event comes from the Charlton Heston's movie, So. And I hardly remember the movie. It was a long time ago, but I do remember him throwing himself down in front of looked like a tumbleweed that caught on fire or something. And, he throws himself down. And if you meditate regularly, if you practice sweetly every day, if you use this book in your meditation, then one day, in the meditation, you can see Buddhas, okay? So we don't People say, "Are you a Buddhist?" You say, "Yeah," and then you say, "Do Buddhas exist?" And you say, "I'm not sure." Have you ever seen a Buddha? You say, "No." We got all these books that somebody named Buddha wrote, but I can't. Aside from the books and the Buddhism that's hanging around, and the Buddhist monks and the Buddhist temples, I can't say for sure there was a Buddha. You see what I mean? I haven't met them. I haven't seen them. I just kind of believe that with all this stuff lying around, books, temples, monks, there must have been a Buddha, But we don't really, and we're supposed to believe that they still live, they still exist, but we have never met them. I guess with a Christian it's the same. With Jesus or with God, you haven't met them directly. But if you practice in a steady, modest way, happily, every day, do a little bit of meditation, do a little bit of yoga to move the inner winds. And, if you serve people in a prison or a psychology program, and that's, by the way, why we're having these presentations before each class, because on the weekend, because that's part of the program. Meditation by itself is not enough. Yoga by itself is not enough. Studying scriptures is not enough. You need something to grease the wheels, and that's serving other people in, what do you call it? Getting your hands dirty, not just theoretical service or not just meditational service, but actually hands-on service of other people. This is a crucial part of a Buddhist practice. So if you do those things, you go to the prison. It's twice a month, okay? Sorry, this is the Lama phone. Hang on. Sorry. She didn't really say it that clearly, Christine, but okay, I'll tell you the real story. Children have died in cars because the parents forgot them in the car and locked it up on a hot days because they were on the phone. Or they were texting, and then, so we're thinking to call her book, Put Your Phone Under the Baby. Keep the phone under the baby in the car. Then nobody forgets their phone, but they forget the baby. But if you have to move the baby to get to the phone, you'll remember the baby. Anyway, so if you do a modest practice with serving others as a big part of the recipe, then one day in meditation you will see a Buddha. Okay, you will meet a Buddha, and not just the outer form of a Buddha. You will meet the essence of a Buddha, and you will know it's the essence of a Buddha, of a living Buddha, right? And then this cool thing happens that you have to throw yourself down on the ground. Like you have to get up and throw yourself down on the ground. It's like anyone who ever sees a Buddha in meditation has the same reaction. Everybody. And it's the Charlton Heston reaction. And you have to throw yourself on the ground, and you have to put your face in the dirt or on the floor. Like you have to. Not one of these pretty little prostrations, You have to throw yourself down. And it's just every human who sees enlightened being reacts in the same way. So that was the first prostration. And then after that, people, I don't know what happened, but as usual in a religion, the teacher told the student, you should try doing that once in a while. And then they felt obligated, and then they started counting them, and like, let's do 100, or, it got, I don't know, what do you call that? Institutionalized. But if you ever do meet an enlightened being, you will experience a real prostration. So it's not some kind of silly Buddhist custom or some weirdo cult thing. Not at all. Okay, it's a very important seed to put in your mind for the day when it comes. And no one can meet a divine being and not put their face in the ground. Okay, so get ready. Okay, all right. So here we're starting a series of prostrations, okay? We're starting a series of face throwing into the dirts, okay? Then the first one we already covered the meaning of it. It's a prostration to Lord Buddha, and it's a Dhamma Depa. What's Dhamma Depa? Crystal clear faith, okay? So we are bowing to Lord Buddha by thinking of their nice qualities, okay? Your physical body was produced by Chewa. Chewa in Tibetan, there's a different word for every multiple of 10 in Tibetan. Chik, Chu, Gya, Tong, Chi. 10,000. Boom. Chewa. So Chewa means, whatever that is, 10 million. It's after Saya, sorry. So Saya and then Chewa. Chewa means 10 million, okay? And they all have different words up to 10 to the 60th power in the Abhidharmakosha, which you can study, okay? We're going to study. We're going to start in April, okay? So Chewa happens to be 10 million, okay? It means a zillion, okay? It means a lot. So your body was produced by countless nice things done for other people, for example, at prisons, okay? Not going once, but going millions of times, okay? And when you talk, it fulfills the hopes of countless people, okay? When you say anything, it fulfills the hopes of countless beings. Another thing that happens to you on the day that you see a Buddha directly is that you can perceive all the living creatures who inhabit every planet in the universe at the same time, okay? Some kind of breakthrough happens in your mind. And each one of you in this room has that capacity, okay? So just try to remember that once in a while. Right now you're stuck at 8:13 p.m., okay? But in a building on Maryland and 7th Street. But when that day comes, something happens to your mind, like a water balloon bursting or something, and your mind, the water goes everywhere, and in a few minutes you can perceive every living creature, the face of every living creature on countless worlds, and you know you will take care of them, okay? So those two what do you call them? Two experiences, one right after the other. You see all these beings, their faces, like I don't know, a deck of cards, like whoosh, you see countless faces, and then in the next moment, you know you will take care of all of them. In your life, you will take care of all of them. And then after that, it kind of changes your life. Okay. If that happens to you, or if you see a Buddha directly, your whole, your priorities change, and your vision changes, and your reaction to single events on single days changes. You don't have much worry about anything, By the way, you also see your own future enlightenment. So you don't have any real concerns that normal people have, okay? You're working on a much grander scale. You are working on the scale of centuries and not days, okay? So the first prostration is to a being who is like that, okay? All the time. Next, we'll go to the next verse. I'm going to blow my nose. Please excuse. Then he'll start bowing down to all the teachers in our lineage, okay? And that's a long list. Just in Tibet, I think we're on the 43rd generation, okay? Since Naropa, for example, 1,000 years. It averages about 25, 30 years between a teacher and their student normally. So you're like 43rd or 44th generation in the lineage of Naropa. And they make lineage lists in Tibet and in Buddhism. We keep them very carefully. Your genealogy is important. When you ask for teachings from somebody in Tibet, you ask them for their genealogy. It's like a good dog. I don't know my genealogy. I don't know past 2 people back or 3 people back, but I once bought a dog for Ani Pelma, and it had like 30 generations of dogs' names in a nice piece of paper. And we paid, I think, $1,000. And then he grew up to be a big mutt. and they cheated us. They made up this paper. Anyway, we have to, you should know your family. You should know your spiritual genealogy. You should know, okay? You should know your genealogy. It's a tradition in Buddhism. So Nick has done a lot of research into the genealogy. He's made a document of some of the stories of those lamas, and he will continue to expand that. And we have all of them are illustrated in a woodblock carving, okay? Which, we'll come out with a real fancy one soon. When we finish translating the whole thing, which might take another year or two. Okay. So we start the lineage. We're starting your family genealogy. Okay. And this, I'm sorry it takes a while. Okay. But I'm not sorry. You should know your lineage. Okay. What we teach at ACI and DCI, I didn't make up. Okay. Diamond Mountain. I didn't make it up. I'm very strictly following the tradition. There's not, there are 20,000 pages of courses for ACI, open and secret courses. There's not a word in there that I wrote. It's all translation of the classics. So you should know, you have a very, good pedigree. You have a very pure pedigree. It hasn't been mussed with at all, okay? No one has changed a single word of that pedigree. And we put the Tibetan and the English. So nobody can question it. I don't think anybody has questioned it. Nobody's looked at it. But it's immaculate. It's extraordinary. You are special people. You are of a very high lineage, and you are of a very pure lineage, okay? Perfectly pure lineage, okay? And so here we start through the major teachers of that lineage. There are some skips, okay, gaps, like we'll skip a couple of centuries and jump to the next coolest teacher, all right? So it's not, we don't go back. It would be about 120 teachers for each concept in the lineage. So we don't have time to do that. We just mentioned the major teachers, okay? We're just going to go through the major teachers. Here we go. And they are grouped into sort of themes, okay? Like I'll have 3 or 4 teachers to a verse. And they will be, for example, the first one here is the lineage of inspired. Are we on what verse? 65, good. By the way, it's customary to, when you get to this part, it's customary to do this thing, okay? When you recite it at home. Okay, because what are you doing? You're bowing down. You're supposed to be bowing down. So you can just when you go through these verses and it says, I bow down to, it's traditional to keep your hands like this, okay? Tuche Chambo Deshe Doje Chang, Chok Sik Tilopadang Naropa, Pel Chok Tombipadan Atisha, Nyamnan Jindabgula Chak Tsalo. So these are lamas these are your lineage, these are your pedigree, the lamas of inspired practice, Nyamlin. Okay, now third chance to tell me what Nyamlin is. Yeah, practical side of practice, okay, as opposed to emotional or something like that. These are down and dirty, hardcore meditation and other practices, okay. In this case, practical application means tantra. Practical application means working on your inner body. Yoga is a big part of tantra. Working on the outside to change the channels. Chi nan tabla source bet say chi nang tabla sor be. This is one of the principles of tantra. Chi means the outside of the body. Nang means the inside of the body. Sor means mainly. Be means you should make great efforts on the outside and on the inside. So the idea is that mind and chi or prana or inner wind are linked. The mind and your inner body are linked together. Where your thoughts go, the inner winds will follow. And where you direct your inner winds, the mind will also flow there. So for example, an outer method would be yoga. And for example, there are 4 movements in Niguma's yoga from 1,000 years ago. The first would be to twist the body. The second would be to stretch the body. The third one would be to core work. And then the fourth one would be to distribute the prana. So those are done by 4 kinds of exercises at each chakra. Chiwone dimba lebana gawa, dimane niga lebana choka, ningane dewa lebana gega, dewa ne nobetsu lebana hangeki yeshi gebi dewa dan tomani ye maybe tingins and nyomba. So this is the mantra. This is the instructions for bringing the prana down the chakras. Okay, so this is these are using outer movements to move energy within your body. Okay, yoga is one of them. And then you could do the reverse, which is what? Yeah, you could meditate on certain parts of your body, and that would draw prana there. And then that could change your body. Or that, like I have a funny thing in my 3-year retreat. We were working on Dorje Depa and other practices. There was 4 or 5 retreatants. So I taught them how to draw prana to the navel, but some people did it an inch too low. And they got really bad constipation. Okay, so you have to be careful, and you have to have a good teacher nearby, or you might have a problem. Okay, so these are using the mind, the focus of the mind, to draw the prana to a certain place. And if you blow it by an inch or 2 inches, then you get problems. Okay, especially at the chest, in the chest area. So Tuje Chenpa Deshe Dorje Chang, he's bowing down to the lamas who taught these inner and outer practices for the last 2,500 years. Okay, and Keeper of the Diamond is a code word for Vajradhara, which is Lord Buddha in the form that he uses when he teaches Tantra, which is sort of like Mick Jagger or something. Okay, I mean in his earlier days. Like very flamboyant, very beautiful silk clothing, jewels, long hair, and very, very divine form, very, very angelic form. Okay, and so that was the form that Lord Buddha took when he taught the secret teachings in this world. So first, the very first person we're bowing down to here is the person who started Tantra in this world, which was Lord Buddha. Okay, then we go to Tilopa, who was the teacher of Naropa. Okay, and I don't have time to tell you all the stories. Nick is going to slowly tell you all the stories, but basically, Tilopa was a really hardcore yoga teacher and meditator who lived in the jungle in India. And there's many long stories which I translated for the Tantra course of all the tests he put his disciples through. His disciple was Naropa. Okay. By the way, Tilopa, Niguma, whose yoga you study, and which is being taught in a prison, right? Was the partner of Naropa. Naropa was the greatest monk of his time. He was the abbot of Nalanda Monastery. We talked about the debate he got into that he wasn't supposed to debate because he was the abbot and he was guarding the gate. And then Niguma was his spiritual partner. Okay, so we bowed down to Naropa and by extension Niguma. Okay, so you can think of Niguma. When you do this prostration to Naropa, you can do a prostration to his partner, Niguma, spiritual partner. Then Dombipa, which is a tantric yogi who came after Naropa, and Atisha, who came 1,000 years ago. Okay. Then there are stories about Dombipa. I won't go into it, but you can learn it later. All right, they're cool stories. Sort of straight. What do you call it? Believe it or not, very, 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 very unusual stories about his powers and his life. It's too long. It's coming in the Lamrim. It will come in the Lamrim. Okay. It's coming. I'll save it for the Lamrim. Okay. It's very beautiful. It's about him and his partner. Okay. Okay. So we finished that prostration. And in the next verse, which is 66, we'll do one more verse and we'll take a break. We'll take a break at 8:30 and then come back at 8:40 and go till 9:30. Okay. So don't worry. We'll do more. I have to go to the bathroom actually. Okay. Jamba tome yinyan namdul de chokde tulwe de dan chakbe pel sengsang kusali ni serling ba gyachan chipe gula chaktalo. So now he's prostrating to the lineage of far-reaching deeds, which is, bodhicitta, or the desire to help the whole world. So all of these projects, like teaching in federal prison or going to Beijing to teach people, and these many projects which are taking place in, I think, 31 cities around the world, the goal of them is to change the world. The goal of them is to make a global effect on the world, and it's working. It's kind of exciting. Okay, it's really exciting, and we need to triple the staff in the next 12 months or so. We need to triple the amount of people working on it. There are 33 people went on tours in the last 6 months, but we need to make it 100 or something. We need to have a larger staff. So and the motivation is to change the world, okay? Is to make an effect in the world, okay? And it's the cool thing, and I don't think you appreciate it, or you don't appreciate it enough, is that it's happening, okay? It's already happening. And I think last year, those 33 people taught 10,000 people. In the last 12 months, 10,000 people worldwide have gotten involved in these teachings, okay? So you're probably having the greatest effect of any Buddhist group in the world. But you don't feel like that. But I'm just telling you. Okay? You are, okay? Any Buddhist group in the world. I think so. Chamba, so here's a list of some of the lamas, okay? Chamba means Maitreya. Who came to this world as a disciple of Lord Buddha, as a bodhisattva, one of the 8 bodhisattvas who followed Lord Buddha, but who was later recognized as the next Buddha to come in this world, okay? Very close. Togme means Asanga, okay? 350 AD, okay? 850 years after Lord Buddha, roughly. Who wrote a book called Bodhisattva Bhumi, Nilja Chupe Sa. And we can study it sometime, okay? About compassion. Yinyan Vasubandhu, okay? His half-brother. Between them, Yinyan and Vasubandhu, if you add up the years in the monastery, they're responsible for 16 years of the 25 years of a Geshe course. Okay, they have big contribution. Okay, Yignan, who wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, Vasubandhu, and then Namdul de Vimukti Sena, Choki de Paramasena, then Vinita Sena, Dulwe de, Drakpe Pel is called Yasha Shri, Sengsang Haribhadra, then 2 different lamas with the name Kusali, and then Suvana Dvipa, okay, have passed on the lineage of working to change the world, okay? And see, you're doing it. You're really doing it. People here are doing it, and it's kind of cool. They're actually doing it. So, okay? Suvana Dvipa. Who's Suvana Dvipa? Yeah, Serlingpa came from Sumatra, and from him, Lord Atisha learned the teachings of bodhicitta and brought them to Tibet, and then they got to us. Okay, so you should know your lineage. Okay, they were lost. The instructions were lost in India for a while. Went to Indonesia, and then came back. Okay, all right. Let's do one more verse. What the heck? Jamyang Yume Chokjik Ludup. Jamyang Yume Chokjik Ludup Tang Tawa Dhakpa Rigbe Kuchuk Che Sangye Gong Kyong Papa Yapse Sok Samotawa Gula Chaksalo. I bow down to the lineage of the profound view. Jamyang is Manjushri, okay, who's believed to be the divine embodiment of all the wisdom of the Buddhas. Okay, if you took a Buddha's understanding of emptiness and it turned into a person, it would be Manjushri. Okay. Then Yumye Chokje Ludub, Arya Nagarjuna. Okay, 200 AD, Nagarjuna. And the Tibetan here says he destroyed both sides, existence and non-existence. Okay, the idea that things can exist and the idea that they can't. He destroyed both sides. What's that mean? By the way, and then he went to the middle way, because he destroyed both of the extremes. What's it mean to say things can exist? He destroyed the idea that things can exist. Yeah, from their own side, without you creating them. The classic example is your partner when you come home and they start to fight with you, okay? Then you think you think they decided to criticize you, but that's not true, okay? You think they decided to criticize you when you came home, but that's not true, okay? You created them. They didn't decide to criticize you. You were critical of somebody last week or last month, and then you put a seed in your mind. You put a bug in your head, and then you're seeing that opened, and then you're seeing someone criticize you. If you had planted the opposite seed, then on the same night, at the same moment that you walked in the house, they would have given you a big kiss or something, okay? It's just you. It's nothing coming from them. Everything's coming from you, okay? So to think that things can exist, meaning to think that they exist in themselves, he destroyed it, okay? Then normally people, when you tell them nothing's coming from its own side, then they say, well, then nothing's real. Then they say nothing's real. My wife is in my head. Okay? My husband is in my head. And I'm living in my head. I'm very lonely now. Thanks, Geshe Michael. Okay, no, really. And then they go too far. They go to the other extreme. And then Nagarjuna has to come along and say, no, it's not that nothing is real either. That's also a mistake. Nothing's what you thought it was, and it's not true that nothing's real, or that nothing works, or that nothing exists, okay? Your husband is outside of you. He really does work. How he behaves towards you is coming from you, but he exists as an independent outside entity. He acts, he kisses, he hugs, he cooks dinner, he washes dishes, he earns all the money, and other good stuff. And it's real. He's real. He works. So Nagarjuna says, no, don't go too far. Is he coming from you? Yes. Does he exist as an outside independent person? Yes, also. Okay? Not contradictory. Don't go too far either way. Take the middle way. Okay? All right. So that's a big praise of Nagarjuna. Okay? That's a cool thing to say about somebody. All right? Dawa Dakpa is Chandakirti, Master Chandakirti, who wrote In a Middle Way, upon which a commentary was written by Jetsongkhapa, called Gombarapsa, upon which a commentary was written by Kiruptenpa Darge from Serame Monastery, the best monastery in Tibet, called Umachidun. And you're studying Umachidun for the last 11 years. 11 years, okay? So you're pretty deep into Chandakirti, I would say, okay? Rigpe Kuchuk is Vidya Kokila. There are two of them, the elder and the younger. I can't tell you anything about them, okay? We have their names. I'm not aware that there's any text that survived by them, but they are considered an important link in the lineage. And maybe Nick and I can dig out some stories for you about them. We don't study any texts actively that are taught by them, that were written by them, okay? But they're important in the lineage, okay? Some of the guys in the lineage we don't know almost anything about, sorry, except their names, okay? Sangye Gongkyong and Sangye Gongkyong and Pakpa Yapse. So, who is that? Sangye Gongkyong means protected the true idea of the Buddhas. Pakpa Yapse. Normally, Pakpa Yapse is Nagarjuna and Aryadeva, the father and son Aryas. Okay, but he already mentioned Nagarjuna. I'll just have to check that out. Okay. There's oftentimes a lama and their close disciple are called father and son. Yabse. Okay. Maybe you can look it up. It might be Jetsukapa and Gyaltsabje. I don't know. Okay. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Either one. There's a bunch of father-son combinations. They're called Yabse. Okay. For example, the collected words of Tsongkhapa are called Yabse Sumbu. The books of the father and the son. His two sons, actually. So in that case, it should have been translated sons. Okay. Anyway, we'll see. All right. So we finished the lineages of the three great ideas: secret teachings, compassion lineage, and the emptiness lineage. And now we're going to go through historical lineages, starting with the first Tibetan teachers, which are Kadampas. Okay, the Kadampas. So I think we'll take a break. Okay. Questions? We have about 20 minutes. Cause of jealousy? Why I have jealousy? Why anybody has jealousy? If I knew, I wouldn't have it. No, that's a makyop. Okay, so most mental, like getting a boyfriend is easy. You just go to the nursing home and help people. Getting rid of jealousy is more complicated because you have to take out the seeds for jealousy. And the seeds for any negative emotion are always the negative emotion the last time you had it. Okay, so jealousy begets jealousy, anger begets anger, desire begets desire. So the mental ones go back to the last time you had jealousy. And then that causes you to have jealousy again. Then of course somebody's going to ask, yeah, how did the first one happen? And therefore a Buddhist has to answer, there is no first one. And that's one of the proofs that there is no first one. That because causes and results must be of the same content. You don't get lemons from watermelons. You don't get thistles, and all that stuff. Then you get jealousy from jealousy. Okay. But there are other approaches what to do about it. And one popular one is you find a person who has jealousy, whose life is made sadder because they have jealousy, right? And then I don't suggest you go to them and say, you're the most jealous person I know, so I thought it would help you because I have a problem with jealousy. Okay, that usually doesn't work out so well. You might say, I have a problem with jealousy, could you help me? But actually you're trying to help them. So sometimes you can do that. That's called tapke. What's that mean? Yeah, it means like sneaky means. Sneaky spiritual means. Okay. So you go to them and say, I have a problem with jealousy, so I thought, maybe we could go out and talk about it once a week or once every 2 weeks, or if you have any advice for me. And then by getting them to talk about their jealousy, you help them. And then that stops your jealousy. And that's the best system. So that's how to plant the seed. But then Mama Chicken has to sit on the egg. And you have to do coffee meditation. You have to think, today I've been trying to stop my jealousy for 61 years, or I don't know, long time. Then today, I used the 4 steps. I took someone to Starbucks and we talked about jealousy and, I tried to help somebody else with their jealousy. So finally, I'm doing the right thing about my jealousy. Finally, I'm doing something that might get rid of my jealousy, like that. And then be happy about yourself. And that causes the seed to grow. So it's always 2-step process, right? Number 1, plant the seed. Number 2, fertilize it by being happy that you planted it, okay? And if you don't do the second part, it might take 10,000 lifetimes for the seed to grow. So you are required to be happy about yourself, okay? That's a Buddhist requirement, okay? You're required to think about all the nice things you're doing every night. Okay? Good? Okay. Yes, Miss Bunny. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Oh, good. So Bunny says jealousy is more like bad deed number 9 of the 10, which is to be unhappy when something nice happens to someone. And then she tried fighting it by trying to catch herself being unhappy when someone else succeeded, and was able to stop her. Say again? Yeah, learning to be happy that someone else succeeded or was happy. That's the opposite of jealousy. Okay, good question. If you find your heart teacher and then you serve them for many years and then they pass away, then should you go try to find a new heart teacher? The reason that you lose a teacher in your life is that the seeds for them wear out, right? So you had seeds for a heart teacher. You worked hard to plant the seeds. Then the seeds wore out, and they left. And it's the same with a husband, or it's the same with a child, or it's the same with a job or a company. And every good thing that happens to us wears out. So there's this principle of reinvestment. What do you call it? Reinvestment. So if it were me, I don't know. I think I would just try to keep the seeds going to have them not pass away. But if they did, right? You're saying if they did. That's a long story. I would help people connect with teachers. I would work to help people connect with their teacher, and then I would do chicken on the egg on that, coffee meditation at night, and something would happen. They might come to you in a different form. Okay. And so I would look, but I would look that way. I would look by helping other people find their teacher. Okay. And not by, going through the newspaper or internet or like that. I think that's what I would do. But I'd work really hard that I could keep the seeds going, That's I would just in my own life I would work very hard that they didn't pass away. Okay. Other question? Rebecca. Whoa. There's 4 great schools of ancient India. The third one is called the Mind-Only School, and they have so normally we say there are 6 consciousnesses, right? In the Heart Sutra it says Migme Nawame Name Chime Lume Yime. So visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, smell consciousness, gustatory, taste, olfactory consciousness, gustatory, and tactile consciousness, and then awareness of your thoughts. So those are the 6 consciousnesses. Then there's a school in ancient India called Mind Only. They have 2 names in Sanskrit, Yogacara or Chittamatra, and they believe there are 8 consciousnesses. Okay. Then the extra 2 are called Nyunyi and Kunshi Nambashepa. So Nyunyi means something like afflicted mind, klesha mind, and then Kunshi Nambashepa. So Kunshi in Sanskrit is alaya vijnana, and it means like the field out of which your karmas ripen. something like that, Kunshi number Sherpa. And they posit it as a separate part of the mind, as a separate consciousness. And then in the highest of the four schools, Madhyamika, right, middle way, their philosophy is the basis of all tantric practice. So how many scriptures spoken by Buddha relate to Tantra? Do you know? About half, okay? About 2,500 scriptures of the Kagyu and Tengyu relate to Tantra, okay? And they might treat, for example, the inner body, what's going on with the inner body. But their viewpoint, their philosophical, what do you call it? Reference is Madhyamika, is the pen. All tantric schools believe in the pen, and that things are coming from me, okay? But they teach the place that holds the karmas, the place that holds your karmas is called Mishipe Tigle, which means a drop of consciousness, bindu, of consciousness, which is located in the heart chakra. And Mishikpa means indestructible drop. It's not really indestructible, and that's a long story. And that's Tantra. But so her question is, what's the difference between the third school's idea of a place in the mind where all karmic seeds dwell and this tantric presentation of where all seeds dwell? In that tantric presentation, it is stated that all the karmic seeds reside in an area smaller than the tip of a needle. So billions upon billions of past experiences are stored there in the heart chakra. And then they ripen from there, okay? So when you talk about the drop, indestructible drop in the heart, and you say that karmas are ripening out of that place, then the assumption is you're higher middle way school. And you're describing how the world is a creation of your own actions, right? But when you are mind only, and you say that things are produced out of your alaya vijnana, the foundation consciousness, ground consciousness, then the assumption is that you think that those objects have some existence of their own. Okay, that they exist outside. Third school is still Ngopa Mawa. Ngopa Mawa, do you remember? Functionalist, okay, meaning they think that things function lies within them by definition. So a pen has to be a writing instrument, or a fire has to be hot. Then by definition, if a fire didn't have hotness in it, it wouldn't be a fire. So they believe that the way things work exists in them. Okay, like I like to take the example of gasoline. So gasoline has the ability to run a car, but water doesn't. Okay, right now, at present. So that then we automatically assume there's something in the gasoline that causes the engine to run. Okay, and in the higher school, so that's a mind-only school person would say that when seeds open up out of that part of their mind, they are creating objects which have their own functions in them. Okay, and a tantric person, because all tantra is based on middle way school, they would say, no, gasoline works because you gave people rides last week. Okay. And then somebody will say back to them, well, that's silly, then you should be pumping water into your car. Let's see what happens. And then the higher middle way person will say, they have an interesting idea. They'd say, if you get in a car accident on your way to work, did the gasoline make your car run? And then you'd say, no, but that's not the fault of the gasoline. That's the fault of the car accident. And then they'd say, well, what caused the car accident? And the higher middle way person will say, you prevented someone from getting to where they want to go. So you got in a car accident. And then your gasoline stopped running your engine. Then the scientists, middle way, Kunshi people, Alaya Vijnana people, they say, no. The accident is unrelated to the gasoline. I mean, the gasoline in a car that didn't get in an accident would run the engine. So it's not the gasoline's fault that you didn't get to work. There was a whole separate chain of events that somebody ran into your car and then your engine broke and the gasoline couldn't make the engine go. Okay? That's a very, very mistaken view. And then you have to chew on that. You have to think about that. Okay? You have to think about it a lot. All right? The highest middle way school's definition of gasoline, or the function of gasoline, covers accidents that happen to you on the way to work. That it embraces malfunctions due to apparent acts of God or quote accidents. Okay, and it says that the fact that you had gas in your car and you didn't get to work that day proves that gasoline doesn't have the power to make your engine go. And that's just a different way of thinking. It's a totally different way of thinking, okay? And I had a weird thing happen to me. There was a reporter in Galway, Ireland. You were there, I think, at that little nunnery. You and me did sojong in the principal's office at like midnight on the floor. And there was a reporter from a very famous newspaper, and he came to attack me. And then he was sitting in the back, and he got very angry. And he said, well, then, we were talking about function, and he came to the example of gasoline. And he got up and he ranted about how, are you saying that if you didn't put gasoline in your car, but if you had the karma, you'd still get to Dublin without enough gasoline to get your car there? And I said, yeah, that's true. Somebody would pick you up or something like that, You would get there. The karma would get you there. And he was extremely intelligent because he asked that question. And the other Buddhists the Buddhists there didn't think of the question, but he did. And I remember the next day we were supposed to have an interview, but he had to go interview Sonny Bono or Bono, sorry. And then I heard later a very terrible thing. He walked into a sliding glass door and died. He broke a sliding glass door and it broke on him and he died. He bled to death. It was really terrible. So, anyway, I know it sounds weird, but you have to think about it. If you're going to be higher school, which again also includes all Tantra, you have to have this viewpoint even to start Tara practice or something like that. You're supposed to have this viewpoint even to do Om Mani Padme Hum. You're supposed to understand this thing about gasoline, that what makes it run a car is not in it. Okay, what makes gasoline run a car engine isn't in the gasoline, and that's our viewpoint. We're supposed to get to a point where we can understand that, and the proof of that is you can have gasoline in your engine and not make it to work, and even get killed before you make it to work. Okay, and that's related to the gasoline. The fact that you didn't make it to work is related to the gasoline. Okay, then that's hard. Why am I talking about that? Mind Only School says if gasoline popped out of your Kunchi number Shepa, your foundation consciousness, it should always work. It will always work. Anytime you put gasoline in a working engine, it will run. They would say that. Then a higher middle way would say, well, what about a car that gets in an accident? Does the gasoline make that engine drive that car to Dublin? And we say no. Got it? So the gasoline never had the power to run the engine because it doesn't run the engine every time. Because you can have accidents where the engine breaks. And then you say, well, that's not related to the gasoline. It's not the gasoline's fault. Then you have to meditate on that point because it means you didn't get it. You didn't understand it. Okay? Helping people get rides to places is what makes gasoline work. And if you don't help other people get rides to places and you pour gasoline in your car, you won't make it to wherever you're going. because the power is not in the gasoline. Okay? Is that okay? Okay, one more question, but I'm off. It's 9:30. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, good. Okay. Okay. That's a long question. Well, let's just do the last part. So we were talking about how things that are illusory can still affect you. So, if you spend your life on airplanes, when you nowadays to save money, they show a film of the flight attendant putting on a seatbelt for you, and they're too cheap to hire an actor, so they have a cheap animation, and the lady puts the seatbelt on, and you're supposed to watch it. But even though it's artificial and fake and illusory, if you watch it and the plane gets in trouble, you could save your life because you will know how to put your seatbelt on. You see what I mean? So the idea is that something which is, in essence, unreal can still be functional. Okay. And then, what's the second part? I forgot. Yeah. Yeah. A creation of your own seeds. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then, in lower school, to remove desire, you're supposed to think about the object desire, whether a man or a woman, that they're just a bag of poop anyway, and guts. And if you peeled off a little bit of their skin, you'd see the real thing under there, and you wouldn't want to make out with them or anything. So that's supposed to lower your harmful desire, where you might want to, what do you call it? Hit on somebody else's partner or something like that. You use that as a reason not to hurt other people in a relationship. But Anatol's saying the person that you're trying to imagine is what do you call it? Is a bag of poop. It's already illusory. It's already like the flight attendant. So it's kind of. Let me guess. I think where you're going is this. In one case, it says you're supposed. Let's see. The person's body is unpleasant, but behind that they're illusory. And if you understand that they're illusory, you have even less desire. You wouldn't hit on someone's partner if you understood that having a partner who's loyal to you comes from not hitting on others' partner. So if you want a partner, the best thing to do is respect other people's partners, and then you'll have a partner who really stays with you and is good to you, is loyal to you. But in the case of the movie, it's kind of the reverse. An illusory person can teach you something that will save your life. Okay? So in the case of the movie, it's a good thing that illusion can function. And in the case of the desire, somehow it's the opposite. Right? Yeah. Okay. Then we go to the example of your teacher, right? This is a very difficult subject. And we had a person in the first 3-year retreat. We had a person, and we had this debate frequently, after retreat and before retreat. We actually didn't speak during the retreat for 3 years. And we had bitter debates. They said, no, my Lama is good from their own side. My Lama is qualified from their own side. You see, they were insistent that, okay, they understood emptiness and they understood that things are coming from them, but their Lama didn't come from them. Okay, they were insistent, and they couldn't break through that there's some kind of mental block. Is a pen coming from its own side? No. Is a gasoline coming from its own side? No. Is your Lama good from the own side? Yes. Is your Lama coming from you? No. And it's not just a question of knowledge. Okay, it's not just. By the way, it's not just a question of if they're coming from you, how could they know more than you, and how could they teach you? So forget that question. That's just a low-level question. Okay. Is it possible for your mind to create a person who knows more than you and teach you? Yes. That's not so difficult, okay? But this emotion or this feeling that what you see in your Lama must be coming from them and not from you, and that's a very difficult thing to digest, right? That everything good you see in your teacher or your partner is coming from you also. That's kind of difficult. And then how could you learn from them? And then Anatol's question is the opposite. If you don't understand that they're coming from you, can you learn from them? And if you try to learn from a person that you think is coming from themselves, will it work? Because it's based on ignorance, on the parallelism that the morality of a person who doesn't understand that it's all coming from them is immorality. Therefore, studying with a teacher that you don't realize is coming from you must make you stupider, or something like that. I mean, by parallel logic. We call it Rikpa Gotsum. In logic, it's called parallel reasoning. If it's true that morality done by a person who doesn't understand that the person they're being moral to comes from them is immorality, then ergo, trying to learn the spiritual path from a teacher and not realizing that they are coming from you must ruin your travel on the path. Oh, that part we can cut that part off right away. Okay. Lower school people who become arhats because they saw emptiness saw the highest school's emptiness in the way that the high school sees it. Okay. That you gotta get. Their perception of emptiness is exactly the same as the perception of emptiness by a person who's Mahayana. Okay, so that question we can cut off. If you didn't see the highest form of emptiness, you couldn't become an arhat, no matter what school you're in. Okay, so that's okay. We can cut that one off. Let's go back to the teacher. Is it? I'm sorry it's late, but we're just going to do a few more minutes. Is it? And everybody's exhausted, me too, but it's okay, because this is what we came for. Is it Shenyan Tenso Lokpa? Is it a mistaken service of a lama to learn from a teacher and at the same time believe that whatever you're seeing is not coming from you, or not understand that that teacher is coming from you? Does it somehow poison the relationship? On a higher level, it will. On the highest levels, you cannot reach nirvana without coming to a point where you realize that what the teacher is teaching you is coming from you. Okay, that's true. I would say that's true. So in that case, it's like immorality. But okay, I will tell you about Gebje Gelden. Gebje Gelden. This is the way that Mongols pronounce Geshe Gelden. Gebje Gelden. Okay, he was from Inner Mongolia. He was one of my teachers. And I think he was the last Geshe from Inner Mongolia. Inner Mongolia has now been part of China for a long time. We met some Inner Mongols, and they don't speak Mongolian anymore. But anyway, so there was another student of my teacher named Art, who I often mention. You've never met him probably, you don't know him, but you kind of know about him because I'm always trying to confess, although it's not quite, it never seems to work. Anyway, so I was jealous of this other student of my Lama named Art, and he translated this Lamrim, by the way, in 3 volumes. It took about 20 years, and it's a good translation. Very thorough translation. But anyway, so I was studying Abhidharma with Geshe Gelden, and I was actively being jealous of my fellow student for like 25 years. And the only reason I'm not jealous of him now is that I'm in a different state. So anyway, so we're sitting there, and Geshe Gelden finishes the Abhidharma text, and he closes it. He wraps the cloth, which means you like it when they put the cloth over the book. It's like they close the laptop, and you're like, all right, I'm out of here pretty soon. It didn't work, did it? Anyway, he puts the cloth over the book, and I'm like, oh, I get to go, And then he says, let me talk to you about something. And I said, yeah, okay, Lama, this thing with your jealousy attacks with art, he said, this thing about your jealousy attacks with art, that's a goddamn good thing. I'm like, what? He says, it's so great that you have art to be jealous towards, I'm like, I thought no one knew I was jealous, And he's like, it's so good that you're jealous of him. And I'm like, well, why? And he says, that's the reason you work so hard. That's the reason you're driven to excel in the scriptures, is you want to be better than him. You stay up all night memorizing stuff just because you're jealous, And it wasn't exactly that bad. But I'm like, okay. And he says, so use it for a while. But later on, you have to give it up, okay? Use it for 10, 20 years, but later you should give it up, He's like, because it drives you. It's a good thing, but later you got to give it up. So anyway, what I'm saying is that you can spend a lot of years with a teacher and misunderstand where they're coming from, and eventually they will teach you that they're not coming from them, okay? And what gets you there is thinking that they do come from them and listening to what they teach for long enough until what they teaches you that they are coming from you. Got it? So you can live in a state of ignorance for a while, and it's useful about your teacher, and it's not harmful because it's going to cause you to get taught that they are coming from you. Okay? All right. Good question, though. I guess we should add that as speedily as possible, you should understand that they're coming from you. Okay? Because otherwise you will lose them. Okay, then that goes back to the other question. You see, otherwise you will lose them. If you don't understand that they are coming from you, you won't be able to keep them. Okay? So you're kind of high risk thing to not understand where they're coming from. So, of course, yeah. No, I mean, if you don't understand that the teacher's coming from you, you won't work hard at the causes that make them stay in your life. And that's a high risk situation. Then you'll use up your debit card and they will leave you. Okay? And not because they want to, but because you used up your debit card with them. Then the karma to be with a teacher is the most expensive karma there is by far, by zillions of. 5 minutes hearing Lamrim is priceless. Karmic, hundreds of years of work to hear 5 minutes of Lamrim. Okay. Hundreds of years of past life work to hear 5 minutes of Lamrim. Very expensive karma. Okay. It's burned up easily. It's like going to Sephora to buy your lipstick. You can't get out of that store without losing a couple $100, right? Because I'm always in the airport and I have to buy stuff for my old lady. Because I don't remember till I get to the airport. And they know that. And then everything's like $200, $300. Okay. Beijing airport. Oh my God. One bottle of perfume for her. 200 and something. Yeah. Okay. We blew $300 in the 5 minutes we were running to the airplane. Okay. So, expensive karma. So you have to keep renewing it. Last question. How do you renew it? How do you reinvest it? How do you keep it rolling? Huh? Yeah, I think share. I like the word. The Chinese people, when we go to China, I don't know what's the Chinese word, but oftentimes they won't say, I taught a class, Geshe Michael. They'll say, I shared. They'll say, I shared. I don't know what's the Chinese word, but Fenchua. They'll say, they won't say I taught a class. They'll say I shared with another group of people. And so in the scriptures, one of the best seeds for keeping your teacher around is to share. And then the book always says, whatever you've understood, as much as you've understood, with other people. Okay, so like make a big effort to share things with other people. We're not allowed to proselytize. We're not allowed to stop people on the street and grab them by the shirt and say, "Did you hear about the Garjana?" And we're not allowed to do that. But it's okay to say, if your sister is angry at your aunt, to say because she gossips all the time. You could say, maybe maybe there's some kind of connection between something we're doing and her gossiping. Like that. You can propose it as a theory and not mention Buddhism or me, okay? All right. Okay, like that. Okay? And then you've shared in a polite way and in a helpful way. And then you can do chicken on the egg with that sharing and say, I shared today. I don't understand 2% of all that stuff. But what I understand, I tried to share it today in a polite, non-aggressive way to help somebody. And I send that seed to my teacher's health to keep them alive. Okay? Cool. I send it to my teacher's health to keep them alive. All right then, Anatoly. Bhagi Joshime Ramli Ramli Shi Ninde Gembali Sangye Shindu Mekte Ido Kunanda Shila Chebasho Inam Gurulana Andala Yadayami Ike Ogu Sana Yeshe Tzozokshin Sana Yeshe Lechu Naba Kuni Dobasho. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming.